Preview.
Northern Ghana. This region of the country is actively engaged in agriculture.
Preview.
Climate change phenomena like increased rain intensity and prolonged drought is creating a threat to the quality and quantity of agricultural output. Unsustainable land management practices are aggravating the situation, leading to ever-increasing desertification and land degradation. The tree cover of this region is one of its most valuable natural resources. It is harvested for charcoal and fuel wood, and for many, it is the only source of livelihood. But this resource is slowly being depleted and is causing its own backlash. The vegetative cover acts as a buffer in flood-prone areas, but as trees are removed, flooding increases. Bushfires and the slow desertification is making the soil less rich in moisture, which is necessary to support crop growth. Zua and its twin Mishio are farming communities along the banks of the White Volta in the West Mamprusi District of the northern region.
There are several environmental issues that face northern region. First of it all is bushfires. Secondly, we also have irresponsible logging. Thirdly, we have the activities of alien herdsmen. Fourthly, we have mining, what is popularly known as galamsey. Then we also have the activities of improper use of agrochemicals within this system. These are the 6 core environmental issues or problems that affect the environment in northern Ghana. All these issues culminate into what we call environmental degradation factors. And as we are all aware, 98.2% of the populace in northern Ghana resort to rural farming. So that means that they are living from the common good of the environment.
The Seidel Foundation, together with the local government authority of West Mamprusi, initiated a project to reverse the decline in tree cover and help the communities adapt to the changing climatic conditions.
We constitute almost a buffer zone between the Upper East, where the Sahara Desert was seriously catching up with us. And for that matter, if the little resources, especially with regards to the vegetation in the trees, are not properly maintained and conserved, then the desert will simply cross and then the whole country will be endangered.
This is not a pure forestation project. This is a project which takes into consideration and into account all issues, a lot of issues which are related directly or indirectly to climate change in the area.
You cannot separate the people saying their way of living away from the vegetative resources. The entire livelihood depends on these vegetative resources. People must collect branches of trees for even medicinal purpose. People must collect branches of trees for housing. Women must collect for fuel wood. So, as the people's livelihood depends on these vegetative resources, they were doing it unsustainably. And as a result, the whole tree population was vanishing, leading to desertification. And that in itself was also contributing to the climate change because the microclimate was not being maintained soundly.
When the rains are too much, that is around August, September, when it floods, even where we are standing, we can't stand. You can't come here on foot. From where I showed you, the flood gets there, and we have to come. If you want to come here, you come. You will not even see this river. You just see from over there. Just see white. We ride it until we get to the other village, Prema, which is about 6 kilometers from this place. When we get into the canoe, we from that place, it is at their houses that we get to we get light. So everything of the farm crops here are always destroyed.
Allah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah.
In this cooperation, we try to follow an approach which would be comprehensive and integrative, trying to, include different stakeholders in order to address the different components which are important when it comes to climate change-related problems.
The project, simple, was to bring government agencies on the ground, such as forestry, MOFA, district assembly, fire service, who collectively can form a team, who, even though they are working in a different department, but the project was to bring them, harness them together, and let them concentrate in the management of these resources together with these communities.
Why have we reached out to different stakeholders? Of course, we needed, the support and the approval of the region, of the responsibles in the region. We needed the support of the responsibles in the district. And then, of course, we needed the support of the locals, the ones who are going to be, who were the beneficiaries of the project. So that is why the project has been carried out on different levels, the regional, the district, and the local level.
From the start to the end, the communities were deeply involved. What we did was to sensitize them, because now they know we did climate change sensitization and tree sensitization. What we did was to take them through the effects of climate change. We use movies and others and they already know it because they are already experiencing it. And they now saw that climate change is real and is with them. And we now took them through how to mitigate some of the impact that they are feeling.
You take tree population, for instance, forestry was solely responsible for that.
We came and surveyed the area, and we examined the soil to know the sort of species which are fit for that particular land. We have to use acacia and then teak. So those that particular species we choose, those two particular species.
We now took them through nursery establishment, how to raise their own tree seedlings for planting. The two communities have their own nurseries. Subsequently, we linked them up with some of the national program. So the following year, they raised tree seedlings and sold to African Foresters Brigade. And then we also hooked them with the National Forest Plantation Program, where the people now, having realized the importance of tree planting, they now release lands and was involved in the National Forest Plantation Program. And I can tell you that it's one of the best in the district, both two communities.
Wan sama amar amfani pam tunda yi kurtu mu armani trai ku mati ma za nya hakla mu anni ko me kena din japu ma za ke pincen ka tete amma tun satisma ko me kena buya ji ko jela tun ban man kan ta tisma wan za ya shirma bel ma yake ka duk bala mu arma in palan za.
Fire service, which is mandated to handle fire outbreaks. Wildfires happens to be one of the key destroyer of our vegetation every year. So fire service was brought in to give a substantive training to these two communities.
I organized my men for fire volunteer training because bush burning causes a lot of problem in the environment. Charcoal burners cause a lot of problem too. Because when they cut the trees, they don't plant it to replace the cut ones. So whenever the fire affected at one side, it spread to a distance. We went in to train the community. So we train them and we educate them about dangers involved, the hazards caused by bushfires. And the advice we give them that always they have to be making a fire belt around every farm that they do. So in case it affected one farm, it will not spread to the other side. So all these advices and preventive measures, and then to enhance the distance, in fact, they cope it very well. Being a humble community and other things, they take the advice very well and continue doing the work over there. And since 2012 up to date, I think there's no bushfires around that area, which has sustained the trees that we plant over there.
We took it upon ourselves, the assembly provided funds, and we sold uniform for the young boys who were now with outfit with volunteering wood and fire beaters to prevent bushfires from going encroach and getting into consuming the seedlings that we're going to plant. And then, so this is how the people were very excited in their new uniform, and they also had other support like small ruminants to rear in the form of goats. They have never seen that before, for free, not to pay back. They were so excited, and that made them, that really work magic for the place.
When we designed this project, as I said before, we were trying, to apply a comprehensive approach. That means forestation alone is not going to be sufficient if you want the project to be sustainable. If you look at forestation, you also have to look at different components which are related to climate change in the area. That means in combination with the activities that we carried out in order to promote forestation in those communities, we also tried to implement activities which are related to generating alternative sources of income. On the other hand, we were trying to provide trainings in order to prevent and combat climate change related disasters and natural catastrophes.
One of the strategies employed to reduce the community's dependence on the tree resources was to give them alternative sources of income.
When the project started, MOFA was consulted to see the aspect of the project that they can play. Actually, we suggested that we should, go into livestock, such that we just thought that maybe it's anything that could take the people's mind away from maybe depending on the forest in the community, in the two communities. So we suggested that they could go into livestock production, such that maybe what they used to get from the forest, maybe if they raise the livestock, they can also get the same money from raising livestock.
The consensus was to introduce bigger, taller goat breeds into the community.
The Sahelian type, we call it climate resilient breeds. When these animals cross our local females, you see the offspring grows faster, and within 6 to 5 months time, it is ready for market. You understand? And we also suggested that let's use this Sahelian breed because it was only 30 farmers that were picked from the community. So there were a whole lot of other farmers who were still hanging outside. So when we purchased this Sahelian breed, the billy goats, to come and cross, they will not cross only for the beneficiary farmers, but the other community members will indirectly benefit because these animals would cross indiscriminately. It will not cross only the project animals.
The community were truly pleased at this part of the project and expressed their delight in its potential.
Yanda chanti dan fanshama yara titi arakuti amfani abaya yatina ambiani chanan titi bunkwabri niti diama ungwahara so anchana songanda kala bushi ayar kutpaza andu adu ala la busma ikunya la busma pa sompi yeye so busma akote danfani pa automatisma ala danfani habi bure pam
lala bun ko ma wancana azugutun da abu kunna ma a amfani katinya ta gbada lala bun ko ma su ka dura andu arbi kara so ta bun ko sai tun da dan marma izan ayini an wayinin nin tun daga abayi kun mannan sun mutuma lalabun koro ma man canji ta bun kobruma ka agballabre atam
alam bishare le molede zakarna bele motade أصل أصل سيدي حبيبنا مبارك وإدلي والك يا متن هبه وحسب فلي منكم ملاذ وملجأ الله لا إله الله إلا الله لا إله الله إلا الله.
An alternative to the open mound fireplaces used by women for cooking was introduced. This earthen stove was enclosed and used less fuel wood to cook, saving vast amounts of branches and twigs that the women would have to gather to use at home.
Kantor bam da sung mala tinsama kabaraza sungma.
We also looked at social issues and social conflicts, which are mostly indirectly related to climate change.
We met with the challenge of the Fulani and their cattle, because all the boar cattle goes to the river to drink, and there was no way they could get access to the river without passing through the forests or the trees we were putting in place.
If you look at those rural communities, there are water systems that flow through those two communities that are coincidentally joined geographically and ecologically. And those areas are rich in biodiversity, particularly plant biodiversity. And so these migrant Fulanis come in there, and with the consent of the chiefs, they devastate the environment there. And once that happens, issues of poverty, mistrust, misconception, conflicts, migration, and what have you happens.
Mnyala Amadu Nyafulani Nguriniki Mbe Misowa Malala Habar Mani Parachana Nsa Kadra Ning Minti Jengo Wale that was a yeltoa Kabra Yeliti.
How we mitigated it was to set up what we call a community surveillance team. A group of 6 members who were dedicated, and we intentionally motivated them in a different form, where sometimes even in the night they were lying by the riverbank to make sure that animals don't destroy the rest of the trees that were put there.
The conflict was resolved. The Fulani herdsmen were called to a meeting and agreed to be careful when herding their cattle to the river to drink.
The communities became sensitized about their rights. They also got to know about the impact of degradation on their livelihood and also human well-being and the environment.
We are very proud because you can see that within their own environment, they are helping in maintaining their own environment and fighting climate change, at the same time having some economic gains.
From Seidel Foundation's point of view, what is very important is whether the project can be considered sustainable or not. When you look around, and I think we have got a lot of feedback from community members, what we have learned, what we have come to understand in the course of the project is that especially the feasibility and the realistic approach that we applied has resulted in a situation in which the community members are able to continue with the activities that we have started, to further develop them, and therefore to create an environment of sustainability for the project. So I think this is the main reason why we consider this a very good and a very successful project.
Successes of this nature makes me feel good. The knowledge, attitudes and practices of people are changing gradually. And we are hopeful that other organizations will see this as a living example and a working example, would buy into the concept and roll on to ensure that sustainable environmental management becomes the rule of law, sustainable environmental protection becomes the day-to-day work of our entire stakeholder cohort.
The trees are growing and forests are being, re-established. I think in maybe 20, 30 years' time, floodings will not be as much of an issue anymore. Same thing for droughts. But it's also, the other activities that we carried out which have created wealth and which have generated, value and added value to the community's lives.